Alright. Here we go. This is the first model. And it's cute. I like this. It's got all the little toys, and because they're sticking out their lances, I can hit them further away. I like these areas. They're pretty roundabout. You know, it's pretty much one direction you go through, and then when you get to the end, it opens up a passageway out. But I like it. It's got all the little houses and stuff. That's great. I used to like, when I was a kid, I used to like model trains and stuff. And, you know, I couldn't afford all the fancy stuff to build, you know. You'd see the whole train cities and stuff like that. But I couldn't afford any of that. So, you know, I'd use my Legos to make houses. And the Hot Wheels were the cars that were on the roads. You know, I drew pieces of road on paper and then laid that out all over the place. I actually made a couple of the buildings with cardboard and paper that I painted the paper with like the watercolors. If you've ever seen the little plastic container that has the 8 or 10 watercolors in it. I've always liked to make stuff like that. I got a kick out of art class when, you know, we used to take milk cartons and straws, and then we would cut the straws up and glue them on the outside and make little milk carton log cabins. And I always got a kick out of that. I got the impression the other kids were bored. And, you know, they were just happy to not be in book class. But I loved art class. It was a time to just do fun things, do interesting things, rather than just read the books and take notes and take tests. It was time to do something a little different. I didn't like music class, though. It's very weird because I love music, but I didn't like the music class. I didn't like having to play the goofy, you know, in music classes, in grade school music class anyway, I don't even think it's the same way anymore, if they even have music classes. You know, we had weird instruments. It wasn't music class like we learned how to read music and, you know, everybody had to pick a violin or a guitar or something. You know, we sang some songs, and, you know, the instruments were two sticks that you bang together, or maracas or something. You know, every once in a while someone got the tambourine, which was, you know, there was one in the classroom. You know, it was, you know, you could say it was music fundamentals. I think I would have preferred something a little bit more in depth. You know, I hope that music class, things like music class and art class, are still around in grade schools and even high schools. I wouldn't mind something a little bit more, not advanced, just probably more interesting, you know, more involved. You know, I would love to find out that the classroom has guitars, you know, and guitars and violins and different things, and then everybody has to learn how to play one. That would be great, you know, just fundamental stuff. You know, if everybody learns how to play Mary Had a Little Lamb, that's totally fine. You know, just generate some sort of interest in it, and you never know. Some people might love what they are learning. Some people might want to learn all of them. They might want to go through and play the different instruments. You know, some people might not like the actual playing. Maybe there's other aspects to it that they like. You know, I think that those things are important, you know, and now, okay, they're just randomly being attacked here. You know, but those sorts of things are very important, and I hate to find out that sort of stuff is not in our schools anymore. I mean, let me know if any of you guys are in grade school or high school. Do they still do that? Is there still, you know, are there still these classes that way too often they're the first things to get cut? So I'm worried that those things aren't around anymore. But, you know, do they still exist? Do they still make you do stuff? You know, growing up, art class included learning computers, you know, and then they would put on the drawing programs, and you use the mouse and you draw one of those squiggly line creations that fills the page, and then you would take what is basically the paint bucket in your art program and you'd fill it in all different colors, and that was enough. You know, that was enough for it to be fun and interesting for you. Alright, so in case you aren't noticing, I mean, you're definitely not seeing, but there are some invisible enemies. You know, we've got a few different kinds here. There's those things that were shooting the spikes, basically. What's happening here is it turns out there's an enemy that's throwing bombs at you. While you can't see them, you can kind of get an idea for what they're doing. See, they end up throwing the bombs kind of maybe about 4 or 5 steps in front of them. So if you're getting hit, you know, they're in one of 4 places. And while I wasn't a huge fan of how the magic works in this game, they do kind of push it on you. You know, they put the little guy with the little archer guy in a place where you can only hit him with magic. Which is pretty decent. You know, I wasn't a huge fan of the magic at the beginning of the game, so I would have done everything in my power to not use it. But they kind of make you have to use it a little bit more, because it does at some point kind of become mandatory. Double invisible kill. That's all we're waiting for is this monster lair here, and we can step on all the other ones. Oh, these things are just loading in there. And that is the second model. So that's going to be a whole nother little world to get into. See, and then that's the way back. But then there was 2 chests that I missed. And then there was that gem, so let's pick up all of that stuff. Plus, it looks like there's 2 more monster lairs. I get so lost in these places. Don't mind me, just swiping at nothing. Alright, so there we go. Let's see if we can see why I missed that the first time. double back and see what we're missing here. There we go. It happens. Not the end of the world. I just hate doing that, you know, knowing that I'm recording, knowing that you guys are watching. It's, you know, I don't want it to be, I don't want to be boring when you're watching these videos. That's not interesting at all. And I'm always kind of worried that it is a little boring. You know, a lot of streams and Let's Plays and stuff involve multiple people, so they get to talk back and forth to each other. You know, this is just me talking, so I'm never really sure if it's interesting. You know, if hopefully I'm saying something that resonates with you guys or you find entertaining, but there we go. That's what we're looking for. You know, but yeah, I just, you know, I want you guys to be entertained, and it's not really entertaining if I'm just boring, which I always kind of worry I am, no matter what people are going to say. I always worry that that's, you know, I'm going to walk away and the impression that I leave on people is, God, I don't want to talk to that guy anymore. Oh, there we go. That is the invisible enemy that we've been blowing up this whole time. You little jerk. Emphasis on little and jerk. Yeah, back to what I was saying. I just, you know, I want you guys to just have a good time. I want, you know, I want to imagine that you guys see the new video on your feed, and you know, you can watch it thinking that for the next 10, 15, 20 minutes it's going to be a little bit interesting, even if it's just something you leave on in the background, because that's the way I watch some streams or some Let's Plays. You know, especially at games that I've played a lot, where I don't need to be glued to the monitor in order to understand what's going on. I just like to listen to the background, you know, to the back and forth in the background. You know, if you're like me, I come home and sit on the couch, you know, as long as I have nothing else to do. But I come home and I sit on the couch and I put the TV on. And the TV is mostly just for noise, for while I'm online. You know, I like having that background noise. It's got to be something holding my interest for me to say, hey, let's turn the TV on and watch it. You know, we just recently made a decision. We cut down our cable. We were going to turn it off completely, but because of the way their whole pricing structure works, we put it down to the bare minimum. And that actually makes the whole price overall, you know, about $10 cheaper. But I was totally ready to just ditch it all the way and just use Netflix for that background noise. Ooh, good kill. That monster lair was sealed, so here we go. I was gonna say, it looks like the monster lair there was gonna open up something. Every time I open up something like a chest of drawers, I get a very Beauty and the Beast vibe. You know, I'm restoring the furniture to life. Oof. That looks like poisonous muck to me. Let's stay off of that as much as we can. It's funny because it could just be a graphic, but Final Fantasy has taught me better. And it's just a graphic. Hey, it looks like poisonous ooze or something. I know in Lufia, I think it was supposed to be Poison Marsh. I think in a few games it's Poison Marsh. That's a great series. That's a, you know, series. I think it was only the 2 games, but yeah, Lufia 1 and 2 for the Super Nintendo. 2 I never played all the way through. 1 I played through multiple times. That's a great game. There's a cat in the attic with the chest of drawers. Speaking of cat, my cat Sage just walked in the room. And he's being vocal. Well, the one meowing and a bunch of petting. Or a bunch of purring. I'm the one doing the petting. Oh, that's the stairway to the basement. Which is going to be our next destination. After, I believe that's the last monster lair. That was the last monster lair. And Antonidia. Actinidia. We can use those leaves for something interesting later. Well, yeah, interesting. I use very hard air quotes. That's interesting. You can store 1 medical herb. Which I kind of felt bad that he, you know, he says the whole line about the chest not being useful. So I kind of wanted to leave him with the medical herb. You know, maybe an inanimate object, but we don't know if they have some sort of feelings. I always feel bad for things like that. You know, they have a purpose, and when they don't get to meet their purpose, it's a little sad. You know, it bums me out when someone takes 2 straws when they're at a restaurant or like a fast food restaurant or a coffee place. They take 2 straws, but they only meant to take 1, so they just throw the other one away. And all I ever think is, well, that's kind of sad. You know, that straw had a purpose and it didn't get to meet that purpose.